Hello friends from Ollie and I. Today we're starting a vlog. So I am actually in the middle of filming a reading vlog for The Golem and the Ginny, which is the big book. Yes, Ollie. This is the big book that was voted on by my patrons for me to read back in, I think it was March. So I'm a little bit behind, but I'm getting to it now. But obviously it's a very big book and I don't want to put too much pressure on myself to finish it too quickly. So initially I had planned to put that video up this weekend, but I mean, unless I'm going to read like 200 pages a day and edit and film, like it's not going to happen. So I thought you and I could just like casually hang out for a few days instead. On top of that, to be perfectly honest, I am feeling really down today. I know I'm trying to be cheery. I woke up this morning and it was one of those days where you just wake up feeling kind of sad. I don't have any particular reason for it that I can like pinpoint. I'm just in a really low mood. So essentially, I think this video is just going to be you and I hanging out for a few days and trying to, well, the primary goal is to ensure my mood doesn't slip any further, but preferably we'd like to pick it up, you know? And actually, I was thinking that one of the things that has brought me an awful lot of joy recently is The Eerie Excavation by Ash Harrier. This is a middle grade book and it's actually the second book in the Alice England mystery series. I had to read this second book for work, even though I have not yet read the first, which was totally fine. Like, even though it was clear that there was some backstory about the characters in particular that I would have learnt in the first book, this itself is like a standalone mystery story. So like you don't need to read them in order. But I just had so much fun with this. It was so good. And honestly, it's one of those books that the more I think about it, the more I like it. You know what I mean? It's a little bit creepy, a little bit spooky, but super mysterious and just ultimately really quite fun. And I really like the three main characters and their friendship. We've got a little bit of casual disability rep as well, which I mean, like I'm always here for. And although I did find reading this quite fun, there is a little bit of a darkness to it. Firstly, our main character Alice is actually the daughter of a man who like runs a funeral home and like she lives and works in the funeral home. So she is very well acquainted and very comfortable with the concept of death. And secondly, this book takes place mostly during the space of a week, in which these three friends go on an archaeology camp. And this camp is on the site of like basically what is believed to be like this haunted mansion in an area with like ancient witchcraft happenings. And during their excavations, they uncover a skeleton and of course a mystery along with it. Anyway, I loved it. I loved it. I loved it so much that even though I do not need to read the first book, I want to. I get the sense in this first book we're going to actually watch the three friends come together. I get the feeling that they weren't always best friends or anything. And the blurb does talk about Alice being quite lonely and, you know, the kids at school thinking she's a bit weird because, you know, she lives in a funeral home. And it also looks like we're going to get a death in the book. And the kids are going to come together to solve that mystery. So this is one thing that I just know is going to make me happy. So I thought we could do like a very light reading vlog. This is mostly going to just be life stuff like my normal vlogs have been lately, but we also are going to read this book together because I think that will make me happy. And it will be good to have something, you know, a bit lighter and easier to read in amongst reading this massive adult fantasy book. So like I said, I have had plans and things that I would like to do. It's just that when you're in one of these moods, it's hard to know what you're actually going to get to and what's going to feel achievable. So I'm not going to make any promises aside from reading at least some of that book and just hanging out together and just trying to fit a few things into my days that are going to help my mood. Uplifting and comforting. Those are the vibes we're aiming for in this video. And of course, I've got my little sidekick here. So, you know, really, I can't go wrong. Was that a grunt of support and affirmation? I hope so. It is already lunchtime, but let's see if we can make the most of what's left of today. Because let's be honest, moping around the house all morning, so far, it's not doing a lot for me.
Oh no! She's pulling me up.
You say you don't wanna get in trouble, that you're doing fine cause you got me. I don't wanna break your little bubble, but you gotta wake up to reality. Cause I can see in your eyes, your head is full of dreams. Tears aren't proof of failure, you just gotta let them flow without judge. There's so many ways to be happy, you can do whatever you like, you don't have to be ready, you just gotta trust the right, don't have to be scary, you just gotta follow the light, you're able to be myself. 'Cause I can see in your eyes, your head is full of dreams. Tears aren't proof of failure. You just gotta let
Well, we're 5 hours into a reading vlog and we have not done any reading yet, but I'm back home after my little spontaneous foray to West Footscray and Buckley Village. Hello, Ollie. It's just a cup of tea. It's not food, honey. Just no food. No, it's okay. If you could see the way she's looking at me right now. No. Oh, sweetheart. Anyway, Gathering Threads is, I guess, kind of a consignment store. I don't really know a lot about them, but essentially, I think from what I understand, you can hire a rack for 2 to 4 weeks and then you can sell your clothes there and they take like a 30% cut or something. I've popped in once briefly before because it's right near where we get Heidi and Ollie trimmed, like groomed. So ever since then I've been meaning to go back and have another look. And today there was not a lot, but I did try on 3 or 4 things that did fit, and although they were fine, they weren't really quite me. It's a very cute shop though, and I think it's something like I would like to keep popping back in. And honestly, I kind of have like aspirations of maybe having my own rack one day. But I did actually purchase something. On the way out, I saw this little like crossbody bag. It's just blue. It's from a brand named Preen. I'm usually a backpack kind of person, but the little blue bag that I was carrying today is about twice the size of this. And I've been on the lookout for something that's even smaller that I can still have my phone and my puffer in. But you know, just for like little outings and stuff where I don't really want to be lugging around a bag. And I thought this was really cute and it was perfect. Then I did pop into the Chestnut Tree bookshop, as you saw. It's a beautiful little bookshop. I think it's probably my like closest local indie bookshop. And they opened up in the middle of the pandemic. So it was really nice to see plenty of people in there. And I was tempted by a handful of books, but I am trying, I don't want to like commit to this because you know me, I'm probably going to break it. But in my head, I am trying not to buy any new adult books for the next couple of months. I'm completely happy buying secondhand books and I'm completely happy buying books for children, like that I would hand sell at work. But I already have so many adult books that I need to get to, and obviously they're not something, well, most of them aren't something that you can just read in an afternoon. So I'm not aiming for like a 0 TBR or something, but I just think, you know, the next couple of months it wouldn't hurt to work on some of the books that I've already got on my shelf, especially the ones that kind of have been left lagging during my reading slump. So there are a few things that did catch my eye, but I didn't end up buying anything from there today. It's such a lovely shop to be in though, so I'm glad I popped in. And on the way back, I stopped in at the West Footscray Library just to have a little bit of a peek. Again, it's just a nice place to be, a nice space to be in. But a lot of our libraries around here often have like a little trolley where they're selling the books that they're, you know, have discontinued from the library stock, and usually they're like $1 or $2. I did spot Can We All Be Feminists, edited by June, I can't see the surname, it's cut off by the sticker. And so is this one, Eric something. Udori, I think? I don't know, I'll have to look that up. Anyway, it's 17 writers on intersectionality, identity, and finding the right way forward for feminism. I don't know a lot about this, and it was published in 2018, which I feel like in terms of like socio-political sort of stuff is quite an age. But the title reminded me of We Should All Be Feminists. I can't remember who that one's by, Adichie? Which is a little book that was very popular, I don't know, I want to say like 5 or 10 years ago, that I read as well, but I mean, I didn't like that book at all. There were some interesting elements, but just a lot of it felt at best trans exclusionary and at worst transphobic to me. So I'm assuming when they're talking about intersectionality, a lot of this will be about race, but I'm hoping that it's also going to be a response in terms of transness, gender, identity, and like a lot of those things are listed on the back here, disability as well. So like I said, I haven't heard a lot about this. I don't know how it's gonna go, but if you have read that, I would love to hear. And I like too that it's essays by many different people. I tend to enjoy books like that, so I thought for $1, why not give it a go? Anyway, I've made my cup of tea and Ollie is clearly very keen for some attention. It's starting to get late. It's 5 o'clock, which means Blair will be finishing up work soon. He's working from home today. So usually in the evenings, we kind of just chill out, hang out together, have dinner, watch some Bake Off, play a little bit with Ollie, and then around 8-ish, Blair usually goes back to his computer to play some games, and I usually watch some YouTube videos and read. So I obviously do want to get a little bit more progress made on the Golem and the Ginny, but I think I will also read a chapter or 2 of Deadly Daylight, just something light and fun to break it up. I'm still feeling a little down. I don't think today has like drastically shifted my mood, but I don't know, it was still nice to get out of the house and just spend a little time by myself wandering around. It's just something I enjoy doing. And looking at some pretty things and some cool books never hurts either. I think that's enough talking from me for now. I'm going to go finish my cup of tea and just relax a little bit. And I'll talk to you again tomorrow. What do you think, Ollie? Hello friends, good afternoon. I've had another slow start to the day, unfortunately. I initially had two things that I was hoping to do today. The first was to get to the pool to do some of my hydro exercises for my injury. The second was to actually go visit my friend. I spoke a couple of months ago about a friend of mine who was dying and is dying, but is lasting longer than I think most people expected her to. Sorry if that sounds crass, I just don't know how else to talk about it. Anyway, she did actually make it home. She's been at home for the last month or so. So I've been trying to make my way over to their place to visit them roughly every week. It's more like every fortnight. And today was the day that I was hoping to go around and visit them. But her partner called me this morning and said that she's not up to a visit today, unfortunately. And I totally understand. I'm really glad that they feel comfortable like setting those boundaries with me and letting me know. But you know, at the end of the day, I'm sad that my friend is still so sick and is getting worse, and that her pain meds are causing issues. And I'm also just sad that I didn't get to see my friends today. So Blair was very sweet and kind, and he made me some breakfast in bed and a cup of tea. And then I finally built up the courage and the strength to get out of bed, put my swimmers on, and head to the pool. So that's why my hair's all wet. I've been to the pool, I've since had a shower. And obviously at the pool, it's a public pool, I can't film there. Not that, you know, really be all that much interesting. I'm kind of just like moving through the water very intentionally. Anyway, last night I did manage to do quite a bit of reading. Probably not as much as I'd hoped, but I feel like it's a pretty good effort. I read 3 chapters of The Golem and the Ginny, which like these chapters are not short, so that was definitely a big win. And I'm about a third of the way into The Deadly Daylight. I'm just really enjoying this. I'm loving the characters and I'm really enjoying the setup. Obviously for me it kind of feels like backstory to characters that I already know from the second book. But basically we're introduced to Alice, who is a bit of a loner at school. Obviously, as I mentioned, her dad runs and works in a funeral home, which Alice also helps out at. But on top of that, something that I picked up on in the second book, but I feel like might be even more prevalent in this first book, is just the way that Alice behaves and speaks and the way that she thinks. It isn't explicit, but I'm starting to wonder if this is some neurodivergent rep, because like that's what it reads like to me. Alice takes things very literally and she appreciates very clear communication. She also often kind of struggles with like typical social cues, and she needs them explicitly explained to her. She's happy to follow them, it's just that she doesn't always know them intuitively. Anyway, we're also introduced to a girl named Violet who has a severe sun allergy. And in fact, this is hereditary, so quite a lot of the people in her family also have this allergy. And early on in the book, we discover that one of Violet's uncles, George, who does share this allergy, has died. He works as a security guard down by the docks, but he does like the night shift. When one morning he is discovered dead on the pier. And the police have pretty quickly brushed this off as, you know, he was doing a later shift than he normally does, and it's like he didn't realize that the sun was coming up, and so like he had his allergic reaction and didn't have time to get away. But Alice just kind of doesn't buy that explanation. And so she starts asking questions, and there's a couple of things that just seem a little bit suspicious around George's death. Anyway, through this questioning and this intrigue of Alice, she starts to become friends with Violet. So I'm just loving this. It's probably a little bit darker than the first book was, just in terms of like how present death is as a theme. Like obviously in the second book we had a skeleton that was uncovered, and there's like a bit of like a haunted house kind of vibe. In this one though, we have someone die in the book, and someone who is close to one of our main characters. On top of that, we see Alice kind of working at the funeral home quite a lot, and definitely a lot more than we do in the second book. So the topics and the themes around death and grief are just a lot more present in this one, I suppose. But Alice's very matter-of-fact, straightforward kind of personality and curious personality help ensure that this book doesn't like teeter over into kind of really intensely dark territory. Instead, it just feels like a young girl earnestly asking some genuine questions and just genuinely interested in the final moments and what happened to George. Not because she wants any kind of like self-gratification or because she wants to be seen as some star detective, but instead because she values the truth and she thinks the truth is owed to George. Anyway, I'm loving it. So even though my mood is still kind of a little bit wobbly, a little bit flat, my reading's going really well. Now for the rest of the afternoon. I did just get a notification that I have a parcel to pick up at the post office. So I might try and get there to pick that up before the weekend. And so I don't have to wait until Monday. While I'm there, to be perfectly honest, I'll probably check out the bookshop because I always do. And then obviously I didn't mention it in my plans because it's kind of just something we try to do every day. We need to go for a walk. Still haven't done that yet. And then I think the plans for this evening are, I think we're going to make pizza, but hopefully with some more reading at some point.
Call me back again tomorrow when you're sober. Signals fading, I got somewhere else to be. I'm an angel cause I love you when you're broken. You're the devil, you don't care how I feel. Yeah, I could get used to the magic of your love, but I know it's too good to be true. Yeah, I could get used to the magic of your touch. Yeah, I keep coming back to you. Ah, beep, 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 beep. Ah, beep, 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 beep. If you'd only open up your eyes, see me. I've been waiting there forever, can't you tell? Even love your darkest eyes, but you don't need me. You don't need me, only see me as a friend.
Good morning, friends, and welcome to Saturday. This is going to be a quick check-in because we are about to head off to Rudimentary, one of our favourite places to get brunch. And honestly, if you live in the inner west, you need to go, especially to get their halloumi breakfast roll. It's so good. It's one of those places that whenever we have guests coming to visit, we always take them to. And even though it might not be like some fancy place in the city, like some specialist cuisine, it always ends up being one of their favourites. And that's because the food is just so fresh and so good. I'm already salivating thinking about it. I'm so excited. Anyway, I also wanted to quickly show you like the one thing that I bought while I was at the shopping centre yesterday picking up my parcel, and that is this very cute card. My and Blair's anniversary later in the month, and so when I saw this, I thought it could be a cute card to give him for our anniversary. I think it'll be our 13th. 13 years we've been together. Absolutely bonkers. Last night I didn't read a whole lot of The Golem and the Ginny, but I did read a good chunk of The Deadly Daylight. And actually I'm hoping that I'll be able to finish it this afternoon. I continue to just really love the characters. I'm really enjoying the development of the plot. It just feels like a good old mystery. Alice and Violet are starting to make friends with a boy named Cal. He attends their school, but he's one of those kids that doesn't have a lot of support at home, and he loves to play games and stay up too late and hang out with friends down by the beach. But he kind of takes to Alice and Violet. Like, they're both a little bit unusual. They both have their own quirks. So those three are starting to develop a bit of a friendship, but it seems like Cal might be hiding something in relation to George's death. On top of the characterization and the story in general just being really great and compelling, I think the writing more specifically is also just part of why I really enjoy these books. I wouldn't call it purple prose, far from it, but it also is the kind of writing that doesn't feel like it's speaking down to middle grade readers, which I just always love to see. And yes, everything is age appropriate, but at the end of the day, it's just good storytelling with good writing. Anyway, after we get back from breakfast, I'm going to try and finish this up and I'll give you a bit of a review, although I don't imagine my feelings going to change too much. I'm loving it. I'm just now remembering that we started this vlog just to hang out, but also because my mood was pretty low. And I feel like I've woken up today feeling a little bit more myself, which is really nice. I think yesterday I was worried I was sort of tipping downward, but I managed to have a pretty restful evening, which I think is exactly what I needed. And now it's Saturday, the sun's out, I'm wearing a cute top, I'm loving the books I'm reading, and we're heading out for my favourite breakfast.
Last night, I dreamt that I was with you in the sugar blue waters, and your big strong hands crying out like a baby. Once I knew I was asleep, hoping that just maybe it was real this time. A little rain begins to fall down, wash it away and see what stays around. Round we go now. I lay my eyes that you lay by my side. Radio loud. Yeah, we get wet with the top down, but I don't care as long as I got you right here with me. I don't always believe in miracles, but I always wish on a shooting star. Yeah, we never spoke of it, we never did go too far. I just wanted to tell you that you're perfect as you are.
friends, we are back home. We've been chilling out for the last few hours, and I don't know if you can see out the window through the mirror, but it's getting dark. I think it's almost 6 o'clock, so I am getting ready to wrap this vlog up and go and relax for the rest of my Saturday evening. We had such a lovely day today. It was very windy. It was a little bit cold, but you know, I think you can stand almost any temperature as long as the sun's out, at least in Melbourne, where it's not too extreme. It was just a really nice day. We had a lot of fun. And I did manage to finish The Deadly Daylight by Ash Harrier. And I have to tell you, I genuinely think I might have found a new favourite middle grade series. At least it's up there, you know, amongst my favourites. I was already kind of feeling like this series was a 4, maybe even a 4.5 star. But by the end, I was just wholeheartedly in love. I don't want to spoil the mystery for you or spoil, you know, the majority of the plot, but I will just say that although disability is not like a massive part of too much of this story, at least it doesn't feel like this is a story about disability. This first book in particular, I think that the way it just sort of has disability as like a part of 2 of these characters' lives, I found it quite powerful and quite moving. I want to speak a little bit about the ending, not so much to do exactly with the mystery itself, but of course the mystery has to do with George's allergy to the sun, which of course Violet shares. And throughout the book we learn quite a bit more about Violet's mum. She does not have this allergy. It's been passed down through Violet's father's side of the family. So George is her father's brother. But Violet's mother, I think she just has kind of like taken control of particularly her children's lives, but even to an extent her husband, and she's trying to exert control over like George and other people in their family as well. I think she has a fear for them. She's so scared for them and this allergy and what it means for them that she's kind of taken it upon herself to make sure they're safe. But in doing so, she just limits a lot of their freedom and their choices. And so without it being framed explicitly as a conversation around disability and, you know, autonomy and that sort of stuff, essentially we have that conversation in this book. I loved how Violet got to learn more about her uncle and the choices that he was making in his life and the way that he'd been able to make choices that allowed him to live as full a life as he wanted to. There were some things that he just couldn't do, but that never stopped him from seeking out things that he could do and that he could enjoy. And it never stopped him from living a life that he felt was full of meaning. And I think to an extent Violet's mother and her kind of fear and obsession with their sun allergy, she's thinking in terms of what her children can't do and what they need to be protected from, rather than what they can do and what they want to do, and finding ways of allowing them to still live full lives. I hope I'm making sense. I don't want to go into too much of the detail because that is kind of tangled up in the mystery itself. And I want to stress that it's not the main part of the book. I don't think it's even the main like theme of the book. And as we get into the second book, their disabilities and like Violet's allergy and everything like are still there and they're still part of their experience, but just it's less present, I suppose. It's not as much a focus in the second book. So it is not a series about disability, but the fact that we have 2 of the 3 main characters living with disabilities in their own way, and some of the conversations that it does bring up I thought were kind of incredible. And honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I teared up at the end. Usually it's like the hard-hitting middle grades that are about like intergenerational trauma that make me cry, not the light-hearted, slightly spooky but mostly just fun mystery books. But here we are. I think at the end of the day these are great books that are really well written with wonderful mysteries and stories at the heart. But it's the characters. The characters just make this feel so special. And the fact that we go on real journeys with them as people, learning more about themselves and their world as well. I don't know, what can I say? I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And so I think with the end of that book, that's a nice time to neatly wrap up the end of this video. Especially seeing as I'm feeling quite a lot better than I did just a few days ago. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I think that having a couple of really good books that I'm enjoying, I mean, that did help. I'm not going to go so far as to say that A Deadly Daylight like cured my depression. I don't know that I was really in an episode anyway. It was more just a dip, you know. But having a good book on the go never hurt anybody, did it? Anyway, thank you for hanging out with me for the last few days. I think filming vlogs is always such a good way for me to just get out of my own head just that little bit, and it really does encourage me to get out of my house as well, because you know the vlog isn't very interesting if I'm just sitting in my apartment all day, and I love getting out and about in Melbourne and sharing little bits of it with you. So yeah, Thank you for hanging out with me, but also just thank you for being here and allowing me to make videos like this. Of course, I have to say a big thank you too to my wonderful patrons over on Patreon, especially a big thank you to Livia, Lynette Brown and Marie. But that's enough rambling from me. I hope that you will see me next week with the reading vlog for The Golem and the Ginny. Fingers crossed. But until next time, happy reading and so much love. Bye.